Welcome to it, sports fans. It's Monday, the first Monday since Liverpool have been crowned champions, and everybody knows it. Had a message from Protea legend Neil McKenzie saying thank you for the assist there. So shout out Neil McKenzie, friend of the show now. Neil, in case you didn't know, you're a friend of the show. Might just call you if I need to know what's happening in Bangladeshi cricket. So congratulations to Neil. There we go, Neil. I said it. I put it out there. And to all Liverpool fans. But let's be clear, you couldn't have done it without Chelsea. Let's move on from that. Welcome to a different ballgame. Such a pleasure to have you with us Monday evening. What a time to be alive. I had such a great day today. I went for a run today. I didn't feel old again, and it felt great. Speaking of feeling old, I'm joined by Woude Muller. Woude, how are you?
I'm not feeling old. Come on. I'm younger than you.
Sorry. I thought, sorry. No, hey, this is why is it a major shock I'm single?
No, I've never been shocked about you being single, and everyone else listening, please never ever be shocked because of that. I did, however, train kids today, and working with 2 kids under the age of 10 is hard work. So that made me feel old. So for like 45 minutes, I was feeling old. At one stage, I was literally like, can you guys keep quiet and listen? Anyway, that didn't get me very far. But here we are. Back to someone else who doesn't listen to me. So.
There's a little bit of banter here. I like it. Okay. Monday's here. Let's get going. A different ballgame, Woude. Great to see you. Let's have a great show.
Yes.
Yeah, let's get to it. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, as I said, Liverpool champions. They have been crowned. But are they a great team? I'll discuss that and my feelings on good and great teams. There's a difference. And then Woude will, of course, give us her team of the week. And Super Rugby's back. Jacinda and New Zealand are completely open. It is an electrifying show because now we're starting to see the teams really come together and take it to the next level. It has been awesome. Cannot wait for the skip pass today with Woude. But I'm going to start off with this. You know, the word great is maybe the most overused thing. Oh my word, I had the best ice cream. It was so great. Oh my word, my boyfriend's so great. Like, no, not everything can be great. Otherwise, the name's ridiculous, right? The term great must mean you are exceptional. We may see you once in a generation, once in a team, once in a neighborhood, once in a country. Greatness is not something that's possible for everyone. Otherwise, the term 1% wouldn't exist. Greatness isn't a term we should just be using willy-nilly. And I've heard Liverpool fans now say, first of all, congratulations. And I'm a Chelsea fan, so I don't want anybody thinking I've got an agenda or anything. But stop calling your team great. It's a good team. It's a good team because I've seen teams win the Premier League once. I saw Blackburn do it. I saw Leicester do it. That's all Liverpool have done. You don't get extra points because you've won it with the most games to play. You just get one title. I hope Liverpool fans realize that. And let's be very clear. It's the first time in 30 years. Let's be very, very clear. It is the first time in 30 years. That's 3 decades. You haven't done it since the world of football went really professional. It is your first title. Settle down. Now, having said that, the presumption when something like this happens and it's the first time, it's like, have you ever met somebody who's never had a girlfriend or a boyfriend and then all of a sudden they get in a relationship? They cannot wait to tell everybody about relationships advice and, oh my goodness, you can't be a man or a woman until you're in a relationship because only then you get it. Those annoying people. This is what Liverpool fans are starting to sound like because it hasn't happened to them for so long that they're not sure how to rank themselves. So they call themselves great. Yes, they've been good. But the presumption is that this is going to go on forever. Like the new guy or girl in a relationship, they forget that, you're just going to become a person to the other person, leaving your socks on the floor, like drinking milk out of the fridge, eating on the kitchen counter. These things will grind you down. What Liverpool fans need to realize is this. Greatness is not for everybody. And the presumption is that when you enter something new, is that it's going to last forever. Everyone thinks this Klopp dynasty, all right, we're off now. My argument is that dynasties and winning don't last. I want to show you how many teams have been able to go 2 on the trot, 3 on the trot. Let me tell you why I think the Liverpool dynasty is over, if you can even call it a dynasty. So I want to show you the record of the Premier League since its inception. How many teams have gone 2 in a row? How many teams have gone 3 in a row? I want to show you this. Right, since 1992. So in red, for our podcast audience, I'll read it out. 92-93 United, 93-94 United defended that title. Great team. Intercepted by Blackburn in 94-95. Then United went back-to-back again. 95-96, 96-97. Great team. 97-98, the Gunners disrupted that flow again. Arsene Wenger's arrival. Then dynastic greatness happened. United went 3 in a row. They won the treble. 98-99, 99-2000, 2000-2001. That's 3 in a row. First time they've ever three-peated. First time in Premier League history. Then the Invincibles, 2001-2002. They disrupted that again. Man United were back again, 2003, and then 2003-04, the Arsenal with 90 points. And so, pardon me, that was the Invincibles in 2003-04. In 2004-05, another great team. Not a good team, a great team. How do I know that? Mourinho arrived, Abramovich arrived, Chelsea 95 points, won the title 2004-05. 2005-06, oh, look again. It's Chelsea again. Great team. Great team. When you go back to back, you no longer be good, you go great. Give us the next one there, Dave. So in 06-07, the second three-peat in the history of the Premier League happened. Right? United went 3 in a row from 06 to 09. Right? What's important to realize from this point, though, is that every time a team has defended it. So Chelsea, after winning it 2 in a row in 06-07, they were 6 points behind the leaders, which were United. United three-peated in 09-10, so only went 3 in a row. United came second to Chelsea. We then go from 10 till 17, 2010 till 2017. No team ever goes back-to-back again. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons where no team went back-to-back. What changed? Chelsea were in town. City came in town with the money. This league's never been more competitive. But the next thing I say to you is this is why I'll argue for Mourinho's team and I'll argue for City as the greatest teams the Premier League's ever had. It's the most competitive it's ever been, and Pep Guardiola won 2 in a row. In the most competitive league that's ever been in the history possibly of sport. Outside of the NFL, there is no more competitive league in all sport. City went back to back. Now, even that great City team with bottomless pits of money, Riyad Mahrez coming off the bench, Leroy Sané off the bench, Ilkay Gundogan off the bench, Emerick Laporte can come off the bench, Fernandinho as your rotation option. Even that team is 26 points behind Liverpool. My point is this. Winning is a grind. These things don't go on forever. No team has ever gone 2 seasons or more other than Manchester United. Fergie's a different animal. So at the end of 2 seasons, the cycle's over. Liverpool fans need to realize. And they may say, yes, but we didn't win the league last season. Well, I want to show you something else, which is quite important. I say Liverpool have had their 2 seasons. And here's why. Of the 27 seasons we've had, Liverpool's season last season with 97 points would have won the league 25 out of 27 times. So last year was really a championship winning team. Dynasties don't last because they grind. It's a grind. As Jurgen Klopp, high grind guy. In those environments, players are being eroded mentally all the time. And what tends to happen, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Barcelona, they tend to come along. That's what's going to happen now. So in the last 27 seasons, out of 25 of those, so 25 of the last 27, Liverpool would have been champions with the last season's performance. So what I'm telling you is Liverpool have shown statistically, last season, this season, they've hit their peak. That's not me saying that, it's the stats. The stats tell you once teams have won 2 titles in a row, it's over. So I just want to tell Liverpool fans, and I'm calling it now, it's over. Jurgen Klopp grinds. It is a grind to win. Dynasties don't last. And if I hear one more Liverpool fan tell me that you're a great team, if you don't defend the league next season, which I don't believe you will, because winning's tough, it's a grind. It erodes people. There are people in that dressing room where mentally it's just too much. Salah may need to go and reset somewhere else. Mane may need to go reset somewhere else. Gini Wijnaldum, I'd imagine Real Madrid will give him a call. He's shown tactical and technical aptitude that nobody knew he had at Newcastle. People will go now. Tough to say no when the Catalonians come calling. When Barcelona and Real Madrid come calling, Mane, Salah, perhaps even Bobby Firmino may be out of there. But it's because it's a grind. Dave, let's go to the first 2 slides again. I just want to show you. It's almost impossible to win 2 in a row. You can see that outside of Man United, where they dominated the league financially, after them, it's just Chelsea. 2 in a row. Let's go to the next page, Dave. Once again, it's just United and it's only City. Nobody wins more than 2 in a row. Liverpool have had their 2 league winning seasons in a row. The stats tell you it's over. It is over for Liverpool. If you don't defend the title, you're not a great team, you're a good team. Congratulations on winning the title, but I'm calling it now. Liverpool will not win the league next season. They've been through their cycle. If Jurgen Klopp is serious, he needs to rotate. He needs to sell a Mane or Salah and refresh. Because if you don't refresh, this is what happens. United, Chelsea, City, only teams to ever win 2 in a row. 3-peat, only twice. United, Fergie, that's it. Nobody wins more than 2. Fergie's different. So Liverpool, I urge you fans to celebrate because I think it's done. Winning is a grind mentally, physically, and Klopp he calls it heavy metal football. They will be wound down, ground down. And I'm afraid for Liverpool fans, you may not like what I have to say, but go and look at the league. Go and look at the stats. It's not me saying that. It is over. You've been incredible for 2 seasons, but I think you can start seeing it now. It is wearing down. The Champions League, you were worn down. It is over. Congratulations to Liverpool, but I'm afraid it's over. And if you don't defend the title, don't come talk to me about being great. Talking about great. Super Rugby, back, all the way back. How awesome is that? I love it. Australians are back this week. And with that, Woude Muller is going to tell us what she felt about the weekend's result in New Zealand. Woude Muller with the skip pass.
Yes, so it was another exciting weekend of rugby in New Zealand. 2 very, very close games. The Blues made it 3 from 3 wins. With a very close call over the Highlanders in Eden Park, or at Eden Park, and Crusaders beat the winless Chiefs in Christchurch. The conditions weren't exactly great in either of these games, but somehow Crusaders still managed to play a little bit of running rugby, which just makes them even more amazing than anyone else. But one thing that I do think was really brilliant was actually defense. The tackles were made, very, very few tackles were missed, so that was actually quite exciting. They did have fewer penalties this week, but I still don't know if it's just because the players are understanding the breakdown regulations better, or if the referees were actually just not refereeing the way they did the 2 weeks before. So we'll have to wait for that data to come out to actually see which way it really went. You can't really make a call on that. But with the Blues up against the Highlanders, this was definitely the sort of game that the Blues would have lost last year. Even the captain, Tuipulotu, spoke about their composure afterwards. And I think it's definitely showing in how they lost defensive play to win the match. So if this was a year ago, they would have given up. They wouldn't have made it. They would have not been able to have this defense under pressure that they had this year. The Highlanders, I think, learned a very valuable lesson. When you get the chance, take your points. I think it was an absolutely, absolutely silly mistake of them to not take the penalty right at the end to make it 27-all and then draw the game and then go into the golden point game afterwards. So if you remember, the regulations have changed. They would have had a 10-minute extra time. So they don't draw games anymore. They have 10 minutes extra time where the first team that scores wins the match. So I think it was really, really stupid of them to have made that call. If we look at their stats, it was pretty even all around. I think Caleb Clark deservedly a man of the match. It was an emotional day for the 21-year-old. His grandfather passed away an hour before the kickoff. His stats alone, one try assist, 7 runs, 77 meters made, 2 clean breaks, 4 defenders beaten, and 7 out of 9 tackles, which is quite a lot for an outside back. Worst player of the week must go to poor Scott Gregory, the fullback for the Highlanders. He had an absolute disastrous day out on the pitch. And I really hope he can bounce back, but I can't see how they're going to have him back in the team for next week. He's lucky he'll be playing off the bench. Okay, so if we look at those stats, Dave, for that match, like I said, very much even. At the end, in brackets, I put the first half kind of percentages and things from that point of view. So although run meters for the Blues 397, only 262 to the Highlanders. Rucks won, so they won 90% of the rucks. The Blues, Highlanders won 95% of their rucks, which is quite a good stat for them. Tackles made, like I said, 88% of their tackles are made with the Blues, 87% for the Highlanders. So it's really great that they're really getting that defensively in there. Penalties conceded, the Blues conceded 11 penalties to 6 of the Highlanders. Lineouts, 11 out of 13 for the Blues, 13 out of 14 of the Highlanders. See, if you remember, the Highlanders actually had 100% lineout rate in their first match that they played. And then scrums, pretty even, 7 out of 7, 4 out of 4. If we look at the Crusaders match, it was a bit of a messy game. It was lots of handling errors. I think there were about 10 in the first 40 minutes of the match, which is not, it's messy, it's ugly, not great to watch. But you can give the Chiefs credit for coming back in this one and for not giving up right towards the end. They came back and they made for quite an exciting finish towards the end. It was 10-3 at halftime. It went up to 18-3. And they came back to a very close 18-13 game in the end. It kind of did look like the Crusaders were just giving up towards the end of the match. And they seemed to not really get it back. But I think the most exciting thing for me was the fact that Gatlin completely freaked out after the game. He was not happy at all. Maybe it's the stress, maybe it's the fact that his team has just lost 3 in a row. But he actually lashed out at the referee, James Dolman. If you remember, there was a ruck that happened. They thought that Jack Goodhue was offside, or that he didn't roll away. Eventually, Aaron Cruden kicked the ball out, and Severies had a quick throw in. All the other players or Chiefs players kind of stopped because they thought that it was going to be a penalty for them. Severies took the quick throw in, and Will Jordan scored a try. So they were pretty angry with that, and Gatland had a bit of a fit afterwards and said that that should not have been a try. If we look at their stats, Dave, the one thing that stands out for me is that tackling percentage from the Crusaders, 92% tackles. They made 155 tackles in this game. That's a lot. This is 81 of the Chiefs. So basically, the Crusaders didn't really concede a single clean break in the entire game. You have to applaud them for that. That is absolutely incredible. They won 13 out of their 14 lineouts, so the set pieces were really good. The Chiefs lost a few more, 17 out of 21. And that's really at these key moments that the Chiefs just couldn't get it through. Tackles, the run meters made was also very even again, 292 to 296. Although the Chiefs in the first half only had 74 run meters. So in the second half, they really kicked it up a notch. But the Crusaders are just too good in that terrible weather. The Chiefs at least did look a little bit better. But we hope, I don't know. I mean, they've lost 3. They only get 8 matches to play. I don't think the Chiefs will be able to come back. So my team of the week, we can put that up, Dave. I pick players in each position. A lot of other people just look at the back three and they kind of just look at the back row and pick players in that position. I pick it in the specific number. For me, the two props, I picked Hodgman and Alalatua. I thought Hodgman, he made 12 out of 14 tackles, 7 runs, 7 meters, which is exactly what you want from a prop. He had a build up to a try and he didn't concede any penalties. Alalatua, 14 out of 15 tackles, 4 runs, 4 meters, only gave away 1 penalty. I thought they were pretty solid in the scrums. And on a hooker, you can probably pick a few guys, but for me, it was Cody Taylor. Last week, he wasn't that great, but I think it was probably because he was still trying to settle in being the captain. So it was a bit quiet last week. This week, not so much. He's definitely back. He had 4 runs, 26 meters, 14 out of 15 tackles, and a 92% line-out rate, which is great. They only lost 1 of their line-outs of the entire match. My locks, I picked Sam Whitelock from the Crusaders and Josh Dixon from the Highlanders. I thought Sam Whitelock really stepped it up. He didn't miss a tackle. He showed why he's in the All Black squad. Number 5, you could have probably given it to Mitch Brown or Akui. I gave it to Dixon. He won 5 lineouts. He stole 2. His defense was brilliant. He did 8 out of 10 tackles. So he's definitely in there for me. My back row, Brazil he was just great. You can probably give it to Cullen Grace. Defensively, Cullen is great. I think he does need to work a little bit on his ball in hand work, but he probably could also deserve that spot. But for me, Brazil, he scored a try, 5 runs, 15 meters, which is not great. 13 out of 14 tackles. And he was actually the number 1 tackler for the Highlanders in that match. And he won 3 turnovers. So he definitely deservedly in that spot. And then I think the guy who there's absolutely no doubt about is Papa Lee. He had an absolute cracker of a game. 2 tries, 9 runs, 41 meters made, 2 clean breaks, 9 out of 10 tackles, and he conceded no penalties. Remember, last week he got a yellow card for a penalty. This week, no penalties conceded. Absolutely, absolutely brilliant. Number 8, maybe a bit of a controversial pick. I gave it to Douglas from the Crusaders. I think he was just brilliant all game. He missed no tackles. You can definitely, again, look at Hudson Sotuto to give him that spot. He's definitely the favorite for the All Blacks jersey. But for me this week, it goes to Douglas. Aaron Smith and Mitch Hunt, my 9-10 combo from the Highlanders. You can maybe argue for Hunt that he wasn't great. You can probably put Richie Mahunga in there. He was a bit up and down. He did score a try. He scored most of the points for the Highlanders, and he had 8 runs of 46 meters. Aaron Smith, yes, he made a bad call with a penalty, but he controlled the game really well with his crisp passes, and especially in the second half, he was really great. 11 and 14, my 2 wings, Caleb Clark, like I said, absolutely deservedly to be there. His stats are absolutely incredible. And then Severis on the other side, he was great under the high ball. My 12 and 13, 12, Anton Leonard-Brown, defensively was good, 7 out of 7 tackles. Not so great with ball in hand, but they do cycle a lot of balls through him. So he's really playing his role in the number 12 jersey really well. Number 13 jersey, you could opt for Ricky Ione to take that, but I don't give the position to a player who gets the yellow card. So Jack Hoodoo takes it for me this week. And then Will Jordan. If this guy can just stay injury-free, man, oh man, will he be a great player in the fullback position. Barrett, interestingly, he apparently gets 45% of the game with his left foot. So it was really great that he has that opportunity to do both of that. But he's solid enough, but Jordan actually takes it for me. And that's the reason why Will Jordan is my player of the week. His stats, 2 tries, 10 runs, 98 meters made, which is the most of the entire weekend. He had 2 clean breaks, 4 defenders beaten, and 2 out of 2 tackles. On a day where conditions didn't allow for running rugby, he ran, and he ran really well. 98 run meters in that weather. For me, he could most possibly, if he can keep playing like this, and I said stay injury-free, I think he can keep David Havili out of the number 15 jersey. So that is my summary of the week.
How about that? How about that? Yeah, Chiefs, I think they have an issue. And you have to be patient because we know what Warren Gatland wants to do. They call it Warren Ball, right? You heard the All Blacks accusing him of that. Is really what he wants to do is attack off the 12, and Leonard Brown isn't that type of guy. So if you remember when he started with Wales, it took a little while to get going, and Jamie Roberts had to be brought in to be the wrecking ball. They call it Warren Ball. Attacking off the 12 is almost constantly your first receiver. That's something he did there. We saw it at the British Lions as well. What he did with Jonathan Davies, moving Davies into 12, being that wrecking ball. They call it Warren Ball. We know what he wants to do. He plays very direct rugby. And the All Black way, of course, is to use space. But Warren Ball is all about going direct. The other thing I think you have to be patient with is, in my opinion, I think what the All Blacks are doing, because as we know, the contracts in New Zealand are centralized. So the New Zealand Rugby Board dictates where players go, and to a point where, especially the top guys, is what position they play. I think Leonard Brown is being lined up to be the 12 to Goodhue. I think that is I think that's what they see as their next Nonu and sort of Smith combination. Is they see Leonard Brown as your 12, they see Jack Goodhue as a 13. So you're going to have to be patient because at that level, especially Leonard Brown has always been a flair player trying to take the outside gap at 13. Is now he's got to learn the Warren Ball way, and that's Jamie Roberts. That's boring. Is head down. First 4 phases, I don't even want you to look outside. So Leonard Brown has to learn a whole new way to play rugby. I think that's interesting. The Crusaders, I thought was interesting because I've said it before. I think they're the best rugby team in the world. And you saw it. When things get adverse, the best teams rise to the top. And when I say the best, it's coaching, right? When things were horrible, they didn't need the ball. Why? They're organized. Everybody trusts the next man. Everybody knows where to be. So when things fall apart, because the Crusaders were awful, no problem. The system saved them. The system saved the Crusaders. So absolutely brilliant. Severis is a different level, and I have no empathy for Warren Gatland. At that level, you cannot turn your eyes on the ball. Nobody touched it. Severis went quickly. Jordan for the rest. I've no time for Warren Gatland's excuses. So for me, what another great weekend of rugby. And the Crusaders, man, they are just something special.
Yeah. No, they definitely
Yeah.
are.
And my guy to look out for is that Clark. He is different because if they can get that back 3 going, in fact, they're outside backs. Ioane at 13, and then they've got Barrett at 15. I still believe Barrett should play wing, but that's a conversation for another time. That outside back combination is just outrageous.
Yeah. No. And it's what I love about it is that these youngsters are coming through. So you can literally keep up with them for another 2 World Cup cycles. So it's really going to be great to watch them develop and just continue to play the kind of rugby that they're playing at the moment.
Oh, that Clark's unbelievable. He's got his man body already, 21. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. That guy is, I mean, he's got like Jonah Lomu vibes. He is huge. And the pace, I mean, for his setup of Ioane's try is, you know, you'd think a guy like that would be into bashing into guys, but silky steps, opened it up, and then the pass inside, silky stuff. At 21, my God. My God, the All Blacks are going to be something.
Yeah, you kind of wonder with him, is it because he has played 7s that he sees these gaps and he reads the game differently? Or is he just naturally like that and that's just the way that he reads the game? I personally think that a season of 7s really just teaches you to read the games a little bit differently and run different lines. But you actually don't know. Maybe he's just naturally that kind of player. But he's brilliant. And I think the way he composed himself at 21 years old to have to deal with the death of someone in your family and then play the way that you did, I thought that was really brilliant. So he's showing some great characteristics.
Hey, that's the skip pass. Great point there on the 7s thing. That is the skip pass for today. Hey, Woude, great stuff. That is awesome. That was great rugby. New Zealand is all the way back. You got to love that. That is the skip pass, and that was fantastic. Coming up, talking about rugby. If you're a Durbanite who likes to eat fish in a dish, one of your heroes is here. He is one of the most dynamic rugby players this country has ever produced. Indo Dayamatota, coming out of Dale College, ladies and gentlemen. Our guest coming up after this.
Well, and thank you for being on the show, Key. Nice to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks for having me. All good?
Yeah. I think the last time I saw you was literally 2010. I don't think I've actually seen you since.
No, you left and moved, I don't know where, to Cape Town, back to the Cape, and I stayed
Yep,
here.
I did. Yep, I think so. Yeah. And I remember working with the Sharks in 2010, and then you guys won the Curry Cup that year in Cape Town on the 30th of the 10, and I think the score was actually 30-10 to you guys. It's literally the one thing that I remember.
Yeah, we won that one in Durban. Yeah, that was Pat's breakthrough year, almost.
Yeah, 2010 was at Newlands though. Go look that
sure?
up.
We can have a wager. I mean, I've had a couple of head knocks, but I'm going to almost guarantee 2010 was in Durban, and the reason why I know it was 30-10 was 2010 was the first time I played for the Box, and I remember being told, and I was definitely in Durban unless I had a proper knock. So we can take a wager, but I think
let's take one. Let's take one.
I might win this one in 2010 for 2010.
Okay, we'll look it up and then we'll see. Dave can look it up for us and tell
Okay.
us. But so you then got picked on after your semi-final and final games for the Springbok squad to do the end of the year tour. Because obviously you played that well. What do you think changed in the game way that you played that you then got picked? What did they see? Because they didn't want to pick you before.
Sure. I mean, I think being part of a successful team helps any individual. And personally, I'd been playing some really decent rugby, and I mean, it was a bit strange. I didn't go to any of the pre-training camps and the where they select the different players and they go for, I don't want to call it trials, but probably more camps. I never made any of those, so I never even thought I was going to be in the lineup. So, after that final in 2010, I thought I'd just be at home and have a couple of beers with my family and see my mates on Sunday, and get told I'm on a flight the next day to go up to Johannesburg to join the Bok team to go on the end of year tour. So things happened exceptionally surprisingly for me. So it was just one of those things, very unexpected.
Yeah. And then you became captain, was it 2012? That you were captain?
2011 Curry Cup season was the first season that I took over the captaincy. I was pretty much probably that season I was co-captain with Steph de Blanche. Steph was just finishing off, and I worked closely with Steph that year, and he mentored me a lot. So I mean, he needs more credit for that season than I do. I mean, he took the reins a lot more, and I learned a lot from him in 2011.
So what do you think Clem saw in you that you became the captain? What do you think a captain needs to be or do that he picked you over everyone else in that team? Because he had some great guys in that squad.
Yeah, I mean, we had some excellent guys. I mean, I think that's a question you're going to have to ask Plum. He obviously saw something or identified something in me, but it was quite a few years prior to that. He had come to me, I must have been about 24, 23, and he said, listen, Keegs, I think you have got potential to be a good leader, but your problem is that you're emotionally immature. So I was just waking up every day and no one knew who was going to arrive at the stadium. I was erratic on the field. My behavior was poor. I was making poor decisions. And it literally took about 2 years to work on myself to be able to fix that issue. And 2011, I think, Curry Cup with Steph moving out, and I think a lot of our senior players, Busy and Kanko and all those guys that were probably in the running, I don't know, they were playing for the Box. And I think, Plum gave me the opportunity, and fortunately we had a great season, making it to the finals, but that's pretty much as good as it got. And we got a bloody hiding from the Lions up in Johannesburg, where they won the Curry Cup for the first time in 12 years. And worst of all, doing it against Durban boys like Butchie and Mark Rose and Pat Cilliers. I don't know if Ross Cronier was there yet. He might have been. I'm not sure.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of that happened, and I got kept the captaincy for a while, and yeah, it was a pretty good run.
Yeah. So, I mean, one thing that the Sharks do, and what I've noticed when I was there, they have this ability to turn youngsters into really, really great players, and they seem to do exactly the same now. And also, what makes them so special that you played your entire career at the Sharks, really? You're one of the very few players in South Africa that's played more than 100 games at the same union, 100 Currie Cup and Super Rugby matches. What makes them so special? I mean, they've got a very special place in my heart. I'm a very big Stormers fan, but when they play the Sharks, it's very difficult for me to choose who I want to support. So what made them so special to you, and what makes them so special to really get these youngsters to come through? I mean, there's Sanele Nohamba, Pilela Fassi, Noche, who played at the Stormers and all of a sudden went to the Sharks, and he's probably played himself into the Springbok team.
Yeah, I mean, that's, Noche, he's been a great rugby player for a long time. I think sometimes you can get stale where you are, and the politics can get to you, and there can be so many things on the go, and you forget what's important, and you actually forget to love playing the game because of the politics and all the other crap that comes with it. And, sometimes, just moving to a new union and listening to new voices, they might be telling you the same things, and the coaches might be doing similar things, but you're just hearing it in a different manner. And, also coming to a union like the Sharks, obviously had a lot to prove. And, I mean, he's been a standout rugby player for the team, this year. And unfortunately, obviously, Super Rugby got cut short because of COVID. But, to answer your question, your first part of your question, how does a team like the Sharks look? I don't think it's just particularly the Sharks. For me, I got lucky. I think, I will always forever be indebted for what this team did for me in my life and for me personally in my career and where I am now. And, without them, without the chance that I got and the loyalty that the union showed me, and I showed the loyalty back. And yeah, I was always passionate about this team, and that's the reason why I came back from Japan. Some may say prematurely, but I just wanted to see this place thrive and create a culture where players would want to stay for a long time and make it home. I think the longer you can keep squads together, the more successful your team will be in the end.
And comparing Japan, your experience in Japan to your experience at the Sharks, obviously you can't from an emotional point of view, but from training and the playing and how the teams are set up and the whole setup, how did that compare to each other?
Japan, the first 8 weeks in Japan were incredibly challenging, and not from a language point of view, because that's tough and that's standard. And it was more adapting to the way things are done. I was so used to doing things a certain way here at the Sharks for 8 years, and all of a sudden I arrived in a country and at a club where we were doing the similar things but completely differently. The way we applied, the way they applied training sessions and the way they thought, and we trained longer, and it wasn't like less was more. It was just the longer you train, the better you'll be, and doing the same things versus every team and not being creative. So there was a lot of frustration for me personally. But once I made peace with the fact that I'm not going to change the entire culture of the club. I need to buy into what the culture is in order to enjoy the rugby. It became a lot easier for me. But it is completely different.
Are they way more professional on that side? I mean, I just remember the gym setup from where we did our rehab in Durban. If you had to compare that to what they had in Japan, the professionalism, the way that the rehab was done, and all sorts of things from that point of view.
So I think from a sports physician point of view, they're quite far behind.
Oh, really?
I think just from a knowledge of sports, I think just coming from the kind of professionals that we had treating us here, and the methodology was completely different to how it was there. Bearing in mind, these are clubs that are owned by companies, and it's not professional. So, if you need to go see a doctor, it wasn't like here, we have an in-house doctor and he gives you meds and looks after you. There you have to go to the hospital. I think the physios were exceptionally cautious in the way they treated, and quite archaic in the way treatments were done, and you had to ask for a lot of things. And that was a big adaptation for me personally. And the gyms, they were amazing. I mean, my club had an incredible setup. It was equally, if equally as good as the Sharks gym here at home. But it was just the mindset behind the way you train and how you train and that sort of thing. That was the biggest adaptation for me. Coming from an hour-and-a-half session in Durban that was long to a 3 to 3.5, 4-hour session in Japan. It's quite mind-blowing to kind of have to adapt to that.
Yeah. You can just say that the Japanese were not as good as us who did your re-up for you. Just basically put it out there so everyone can know. I mean, I really had my hands full with you guys and had to deal with quite a lot of...
Woude, I mean, honestly, I take my hats off to all the female interns that we've had at the Sharks. I mean, you literally are going into, the Shark cage, put it lightly. I mean, you walk into a room full of testosterone-filled men, and you've got to stand your ground. So I really take my hats off to all the girls and ladies that have come through and done the internships there.
I was making joke. I said it was easier for me to recognize the guys from their underwear than it was from just because they were walking around in their underwear so much, and I knew like this one there's this one there's that brand of underwear. So you can literally start recognizing them from the underwear they were. But I also remember doing.
You said you never looked at any of that, so it's quite interesting.
Of course, I had to say it at that point. I just made a confession here for anyone that didn't know. And I remember doing your guys' massages or rub downs on a Tuesday. Now it's these big guys. Literally, the entire leg is bigger than my entire body. I weighed like 49 kilos at that point. And now I have to massage them. And I remember one of the guys said to me, he's like, please, can you go a little bit softer? You're hurting me. He's like, yes, I've made it.
So your pride and joy is hurting some big muscly man with your hands.
Absolutely. I literally felt like I made it. And then when Stefan said to me, he's like, okay, who's going to keep us in check on and off the field when I signed to move back to Cape Town? But it was definitely a very special time for me. So I can understand why you would have wanted to stay there. But one thing that I also do remember is that John being captain, he wasn't there very often because he had a lot to do at the Springboks and it was very difficult. But whenever he walked in, he had this real like presence around him. And I think it was a pre-game, actually here in Cape Town, pre-game, and it's the first time that I heard him swear, was in the change room just before a game. And he just had this absolute presence around him. What was it that made him so absolutely special? When he just walked in, you could feel it.
Sure. Yeah, John is an incredibly amazing, not only captain, but a human being. I mean, you are right. Wherever he goes, he's captivating. I think because he's so relatable and he gives people the time of day and he's engaging. When you speak to him, you don't feel like he's just talking to you because he has to. He's literally engaging with you in that point in time. And his leadership skills were just something that I admired, and the way he treated people was something that I really, really respected. Because he had also gone through a lot of tough times in his rugby career where he was on the front page a lot for good and bad performances, and he had to bear the brunt of that. And the way he carried himself and who he was as a person, I was very lucky enough to be able to have him as one of my mentors growing up, and I'm fortunate to call him a good friend today.
Yeah. I also said to someone the other day that I think South African rugby is in a very healthy position at the moment, and we've got so many youngsters coming through and through the ranks. Who of those youngsters would you say would probably make it into the Springbok squad for the 2023 World Cup?
Sure. That's a good question. I wish Super Rugby was still on, then I could have watched. It's hard to keep up now. There's so many youngsters that come through week in and week out. You got to almost keep a board up here with all the guys' names. I really think a guy like Apelele Fassi is going to be a force to be reckoned with. He really is playing some outstanding rugby at the moment. For a lot of these young guys, and I mean there are plenty of them. I think James Fenter is an exciting loose forward. I like the way he's playing. And I speak, and I'm not trying to be biased, but the reason why I mentioned Sharks players is because that's the team I watch the closest, and I'm sure there's plenty of other talent out there. But yeah, I think for those young players that have aspirations to play in a World Cup, I think that's it's nice to have those long-term goals, but it's about staying injury-free, keeping healthy, keeping the fire burning, staying hungry, producing those performances. Because very often you see players get a bit of a taste at the top and they forget about the hard work that needs to go into keeping them there. So I agree with you. I think South African rugby is and has always really been in a healthy position. I mean, the amount of, if you look at our schoolboy rugby, the kids that we have playing there at the moment, I mean, schoolboy rugby is so exciting. And yeah, I think we're in an interesting space. I'd like to see how we're going to go in the next 8 to 12 months. Obviously, depending on how much international rugby there will be, I think it'll be interesting to see the new dynamic. But for me, Woude, I'll say this: I don't like judging teams on World Cups. You know, World Cups are events, and they're one-offs. You literally got to win. I think it's 5 out of 6 games or 6 out of 7 games, and you can win a World Cup. I think your judgment needs to be on a longer period of time in terms of showing your quality as a team. And I think we were talking about football earlier, and you know, some teams win it once and they think that that they're the best, and they are for that point in time. But let's look at the performance over an extended period of time to really get a feel of how good that team is.
Yeah. I mean, I was saying before, and I'm very openly saying, I was never a fan of Rassie, but I'm probably one of his biggest fans at the moment, just with the way that he's turned South African rugby around. And I think we've got such a positive outlook that we can look towards now with what he's done. And I definitely think with what he's going to do further on.
Buddy, I like what you're saying, but you know, I asked you this question: would you feel the same way if we didn't win the World Cup?
Yeah, well, maybe you're right, but I think
I don't know. I'm asking you. I'm just thinking. That's what I'm saying. There's this thing, we've won a World Cup, and it's great and it's amazing, and I'm taking nothing away from it. I was, as equally happy as everyone else in this country, and we're all celebrating. But I think, once again, I think we should give it some time. And yes, there's a positive vibe in the camp. But if you look at the dynamics of the players that were involved at that time, who of them are going to be involved in a year's time, in 2 years' time? So I always say that a lot of people think that, and I'm, Rassie can get the credit, he's the coach, but there were a lot of players there that played phenomenal roles in that team that probably don't get enough credit in terms of what they did. So yeah, it's interesting. I see it a little bit differently from that point of view.
No, I agree. I 100% agree with you, but I think he created a very healthy environment for these players to be able to thrive the way that they did. Because I don't think under Alistair before that, they really had the ability to be able to do that. And he gave them the opportunity. I think he created a very positive environment for them to be themselves, no matter what their background is. So even if they were a rich boy coming out from a farm or wherever another player would come from, I think they gave them the opportunity to be exactly that and feel comfortable. So they were able to start playing the roles that they want to play. And now going forward, this is a good foundation to start working on.
Yeah, I don't think that the idea of having an inclusive team is new. I mean, I can tell you, I can go back to 2007 where I was coached by coaches here, where the players were included in decision making and thought processes and discipline and team culture and what we're about. And so I don't think it's a new thing, but when maybe the past was so jagged and wasn't as successful, and there was a lot of politics and left and right, you can see something that's actually relatively normal and has been done for a long time, and because it pays off on a big stage, it seems like it's something that's ingenious. I just think that any organization, whether you're sports or in a business or in a school or in a team, the buy-in of your players and for them to take control and responsibility, that's what's going to give you the success. And I think that's what New Zealand rugby has been doing since 2007 when they lost in the, I think were they losing the quarters? I can't remember, or the semis. Yeah, so I don't think it's an overboardly new thing. I just think it's the first time it's actually been applied correctly here in a national level.
Oh, that's very interesting, and I think you being involved in it from the inside sees it a lot better than us from the outside in. So very interesting to see it from that point of view.
I'll just tell you for free, I'm not taking away anything from our victory. I mean, it was all the way, and I love it, and it's all amazing. But I heard this interesting story from a golfer. It was a South African golfer. I think it was Charles Schwartzel. told a story, and the guy asked him a question. He said, how can you finish like second in the tournament last week, and then the next tournament you don't even make the cut? And he said, it's quite simple. He said, because when things are going well, we very rarely ask ourselves the question of what are we doing poorly and what do we have to fix. So when you're winning and you're doing well, you forget about those things. And slowly what happens is the things that are bad start catching up, because you're doing well. And all of a sudden, this is what happens. So you need to keep an eye out on those things and keep asking yourself, what do you need to keep on improving on? So that you can avoid that type of thing happening. And I think a lot of coaches and a lot of teams, when they're doing well, they don't ask themselves the question, okay, well, what can we do better? Where can we not slip up? Where were we poor? It's only when they're playing badly do they go like, geez, what do we need to do better? How can we improve? How can we get a win? And that's why you'll see a lot of teams, and it's happened before, they'll go 6 games unbeaten, they'll go 7 games unbeaten, then all of a sudden they'll lose to the 15th ranked side in the team because they've let those bad habits creep in enough because they've been covered up by the wins.
So you don't think South Africa is going to win the next World Cup? You don't think they're going to be able to win a back-to-back?
I think it'll be very hard. I think England's going to have learnt a lot from this. I think there are other powerhouses in world rugby that are coming up to the fray that are playing some great rugby. I think in 4 years' time, the French are looking really nice. They're changing the way they're doing things in France at the moment. They're not just flooding the market with foreign-born players. The standard New Zealand team is always going to be there as a threat. I think it's going to be a challenge. But then again, 4 years' time is a long time away. We don't know what the nature of the teams are going to be like then, or who the coaches are going to be at the time. Is Rassie still going to be involved in 4 years' time? One thing we know about South African sport, it can change very, very quickly.
Yeah, that's very true. Very, very true.
I think we should be focusing on the British and Irish Lions. That's going to be our biggest test coming up. So I think that's where we need to be in our headspace. And how are we going to put a squad together that can play against ultimately 4 nations, for the best players from 4 nations? How are we going to get a team together with the way rugby is going currently? Are the overseas-based players going to be released in time? Will they be available? I think there's so many. For me, that would be the next focus. Be like, let's perform well against the British and Irish Lions.
Yeah.
Keegan Daniel, huh? Keegan Daniel. hey, you should have your own show. Like I was considering going home. I was like, hey, this guy's good. Should swap jobs. Hey man, you said some things there, brother.
Cheers.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to tell you this, man.
You can't be someone when you talk about something passionately, if you believe in it. And also, I think I had a conversation today in that long meeting I had, and I said, like, only when we start having uncomfortable conversations will we start creating change. And let's voice our opinion on these facts. Like, let's not just sit there quietly. And I'm not being derogatory, and I'm not argumentative. I'm just saying, think about it from this perspective. Very often we see it from a mainstream perspective, and we don't really see it from someone else's point of view or look at it differently and think, if we lost in this semi-final to Wales, or we lost the final, would we still be so kumbaya about that squad and what they did and that? Well, maybe we wouldn't be, but that's actually irrelevant technically because we bloody won. So you should be telling me to shut up, actually, probably.
No, but that would be rude, and I can't do that on the show.
No, hey, Keegan, here's me. I kind of agree with what you were saying. And I mean, we can maybe come back to that. What I want to do is maybe take us back a little bit, because I think you've kind of set a great tone here. Is, you weren't, for lack of a better term, your typical, what I consider your typical South African loose forward. You were looking to play into space well ahead of your time. I think you and your fellow Eastern Cape mate, and I don't know whether you want this name associated with you in the same sentence, but you and Luke Watson were something I'd never seen before in South African rugby, where your size, right, right up until Brosseau, right, is your size didn't affect your impact on the game. And then you were also giving me the impact of being a third center, because you could get there before any of our big guys could. So you could link backline and forwards. You could help the fullback properly, and these were things, your cover defense was out of this world. Do you think the size obsession in South Africa, now I'm not saying you're saying this, I'm saying we have a size obsession and have had versus skills. Do you think that cost you more Bok caps? And is that something you feel which inhibited your progress? Or do you just think at the time we were just too loaded with Juan Smith, etc., that type of prototypical Bok Lucy? Is that a fair question to ask? And I don't know what you think of that.
That's a great question. I think I think there are about 19 questions in that one question, but I'll try to get through them. Look, I think it's certainly in South Africa there's a fixation on size, but there's a difference between being big and being skillful and being fast, and we all have our own attributes. And I was very much in a position where a lot of coaches try to change me because of my physical nature, and you got to get bigger and you got to weigh more and you got to do all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I was lucky enough just to focus on the things that made me who I was as a player. I didn't try and be something I wasn't. And I think in the beginning that erratic approach was because coaches were saying you got to be bigger, you got to make bigger hits, and you got to be more robust. And I was doing stupid stuff and getting like literally 4 or 5 yellow cards a season. And I was adding no value to my team. And only when I realized like where my value lied in as a rugby player, and I focus on those things, that I really start to come to start playing some really good rugby and start to understand myself. And I think, unfortunately, South Africans from a young age are put under pressure to play first team, and the coach will say, well, if you want to play first team, you need to weigh this much and you need to be that much and go do all these testings and all that kind of stuff. And it's just the way South African rugby has been for a long time. And I think Brosseau changed that mindset in 2009. I think was his like cracker year. British Irish Lions. He was a tiny guy, but that game suited him, the way he was, and then the law changed, unfortunately. But a big factor is, and this is something you can't control, and that's what I tell a lot of young sports people, or even business folk, like, there's only so much you can do. So you got to control the controllables as a player. That you can do everything you want. You can run the fastest, bench the most, do everything. But if the coach doesn't see you in his plans or doesn't think you're the right fit, that's okay as well. And I don't think it was because of the way I played, particularly. I mean, I still thought I played really well. I mean, I played for the Boks in 2010 and missed out on the 2011 World Cup. And then 2012, also missed out in the middle of the Rugby Championship. But that's also the kind of coach that was involved. I think if a guy like Rassie and Mzwanile Stick, and when Swayze was involved at the Springboks, maybe then I would have had a bit of a longer career. And that's just life. I had a different role to play. I had to fulfill a different position. So, we are fixated on size in South Africa, but that's why we bribe big stakes, bro. We love it. We love the size. That's how it is.
Oaks are jawling. What you gonna do? The Oaks just want to jawl at the braai with the Betties.
Listen, can I tell you something? Also, in my prime, I call it my prime, but listen, there was South Africa's just. I mean, we produce unbelievably good rugby players, but if not, a lot of great loose forwards. I mean, if you look at that era, just leading up, there was, Skalkberger, Willem Alberts, Jean Duisel, Juan Smith, Ryan Kinkowski, Piers Spies, Heinrich Brosseau, Dion Stegman. Then there was myself.
You've done well. I like how you saved yourself the end there. Oh, just throwing it in there. Skalkberger, Juan Smith, me. You should have done Donnie Gerber.
I was the last.
Andre Venter. You should have just you should have thrown Andre Venter, Ruben Creer, me. You should have just kept it rolling.
I couldn't have played with those. Are real men. I couldn't have played with those guys. Those guys would have probably broken. Yeah. So I think we fixated on size, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I thought, of course, Watson was world class for 5 years, and of course he is what he is off the field, and perhaps that's a little unsavory for the corporate world. But the guy should have been a Bok. He should have been a 50-test Bok, and you should have been a 50-test Bok. Just because, you know what? As a layman, it's like, I could see like, hey, who's that guy? Because whenever that guy's near the ball, whether it's their ball or our ball, something different is happening there. I mean, so I don't think you're being sort of revisionist in your history. And I think perhaps if you were born in Australia or in New Zealand, you may have been valued differently. And okay, fine. It seems like you're in a place of acceptance in your life. And I think that's all credit to you. You said something which I admire a little bit earlier. And I don't know whether it was something you realized, but you said yourself and Plumtree obviously had an uncomfortable conversation where you showed emotional immaturity. Now, when you talk about that, could you, I mean, you did touch on it a little bit about getting yellow cards and a little bit of that, but could you maybe talk to a little bit of being comfortable with what you are as a player? Because you strike me as somebody who, by your very nature, is you're always going to be out front. And that's not easy for everybody, is you're happy to lead. And sometimes that can come across for people if they aren't secure in themselves very differently. Talk to me about that emotional maturity. Was there a time when you were like, I should be leading, but because, you know, your ideal self and your real self weren't in sync, you were kind of struggling with yourself? And what did it take to actually let Keegan step into Keegan himself, the Keegan that you are? Because I found that really, really fascinating what you said about that.
Yeah, so, you know, the emotional immaturity side of it was very simple, that I was obviously dealing with a lot of stuff where I was trying to figure out who I was as a player and who coaches wanted me to be. So, you know, I like you say, I shouldn't have maybe got as many games as I should have and played for the Box, because I'm the quintessential non-formative loose forward, and you know, all these things, and I'm battling these demons, and I'm not being treated as an equal, because in preseason I'm in the gym for 5 weeks instead of running out there with my mates and getting fit, and it was a tough time, and I think I was trying to prove myself, and I was in a Keegan Daniel body, but I was trying to be a Jean Deysel and a Willem Alberts, and I was getting frustrated, and my attitude was poor, and I was arriving at the stadium one day I'd be happy and jovial, then the next day I'd be miserable, and I was snapping a lot of things. I wasn't thinking clearly in my decision making, and I was allowing uncontrollable things to affect me mentally. And the reality is, we all get advice in our lives. You know, I think no matter where we go, we get advice. It's how we react to that advice and how we take it on board. And I can tell you that for 2 years, I worked on my emotional stability. I worked on who I was. The guys will joke and tell you that Odra will tell you that he gave me the nickname Walter, and he was some ventriloquist doll, and he was a grumpy old man. That's what they thought I was. I was just a grumpy person. And I wasn't pleasant, and I wasn't happy, and what's the point? You know, playing a game you love and you're involved and you're professional, but you're not a happy, nice guy. And it took 2 years with a lot of work and inward, you know, focus, and ultimately it changed my performance. You know, when I got offered the captaincy in 2011 Currie Cup, you know, I didn't immediately accept. I said to Plum, thanks, let me just go home. I want to think about it a little bit. And I came back to him, and all I said to him, I said, Plum, like, I know I've got a lot to learn. I was 26 at the time. I said, but the only thing I want you to promise me is that you pick me as a player first and then a captain. So my performance has to back up my captaincy. You understand? I can't.
Wow.
You can't. You know, be the captain and not perform well. You know, I'm not saying I've got to be the best player. Because there were definitely better players than me on the field all around, but my performance has to match. You know, and I think I was one of those guys that was players or people that, you know, I was inspired by leadership. You know, I love the responsibility, I love the challenge, I loved the interaction with the referees and dealing with disappointment afterwards, and trying to get the teams together and plotting and planning on how to, you know, make sure the season goes well, or where we're at and how we're going to get to places. And at times, I can be honest, like my outgoing way and calling a spade got me into trouble, and I at times said things I shouldn't have. But I can look back on my career and say the things I said I meant and I backed. I probably could have done them in a different manner or in a different time frame or in a different forum. But, you know, I was always true to myself, and that was the main thing. You know, once I figured out that, and my saving grace, I'll tell you this, was making the Box in 2010. So once I made the Box, you know, I came back, and I only played one test match at the end of the year. We played against Ireland. And once I came back, I literally said to everyone, now everyone can get off my back. because if I can, at my weight and my ability, play at the highest level that my profession allows, then surely you can give me some space now just to be me. And I think that from 2010 leading to 2011 and 12, like my career I think I played my best rugby between 2010 and 2013. And I think just that break, that mental break, allowed me to be able to just express myself. And also, a big thing is when a coach backs you. I knew when I could play, I had this, kind of free reign to do whatever because that's who I was. I wasn't thinking. A lot of players go into a field and think, oh, if I do this and I make a mistake, the coach is going to, and so that stifles this player's creativity. And I wasn't the kind of player that you can put in a box. You get those players and you need them. We need the guys that are just going to go hit rucks and are just going to tackle. We have to have them. They're important to the team. But the other players where you also need to just allow them to be creative, and they are going to make mistakes, but most of the times it's going to pay off. And I found towards the end of my career, a couple of the coaches that I had were trying to put me in a box, and I started playing with a mindset of like, oh, if I make this mistake, am I going to get selected? And I started to not love playing the game, and my natural ability and my natural instinct was taken away. And I wasn't of any value to the team, because if mentally you're feeling like there's pressure because you're worried about making mistakes, and that's where I think the Sharks have turned a corner this year. I think the coaching staff have allowed them to express themselves and play rugby and look up and see what's in front of them and express themselves. And I think that's why they've played the way they've played this year.
Hey, Keegan, this is going to turn into a Joe Rogan podcast because I actually had so many other questions for you, but you've led us down an incredible path here. I probably have one more question. Listen, I value your time so much, bro.
Go ahead. It's no problem.
This has been such a hey, this is a powerful conversation. You're going to have to come back. That's the thing is I got to save. Hey, this kind of stuff, we can't use up all this juice because some of the stuff you said, I probably need to go and sit down in a dark room and process. It's like, you're talking about character now, and that's a whole different, character is a whole different animal. I just want to go to something else quickly, which is close to my heart because my family's from the Eastern Cape, right? That's a production line coming from there. I don't need to list all of you guys that came from there. Number one, something that people don't consider. I was speaking to one of the selectors at a relatively high level internationally about why it's important that more franchises have local guys. Is when a guy turns 21, 22, 23, and you start giving him 2 million rand a year, and he doesn't have anyone to go to on the weekend, have dinner with mom, have dinner with dad, we don't realize that guy isn't 29, he's not 30, he's 22 with no core foundation. What was the challenge for you coming from the Eastern Cape and coming to Durban? I mean, one of the metropolis cities of Africa. What was it like for you early on? And what was somebody helping you with just your character development and professionalism? What was it like? Because I'm always interested to know how much teams help these young players after you give them a $1 million a year contract or whatever it may be.
Jeez, I wish I had a $1 million contract when I was 20. That'd be amazing.
It's because you weren't under a fenter. What you should have done was you should have gymmed hard in school.
Exactly. Hey, there are no gyms in the Eastern Cape, bro. You know that.
No, that's true. That's no electricity. No electricity.
I took a different route. So I came up here on my own. I went to boarding school when I was 13. So I was used to being away from home. I could fend for myself in the hostel. I knew how to fight for what was mine. And, I didn't apply to university at school. I knew I wanted to leave East London. Durban gave me opportunity to come and play club rugby. So I packed my bags and off I came, applied to the Sharks Academy like a student, took out a student loan that I had to pay off later on. And I got to enrolled in the academy, and I literally just allowed myself to be immersed in all the learnings from all the coaches there. And I didn't really get a contract until I was 21, 22. But I mean, that contract would have been like, yeah.
Wait, whoa. Hang on there. What do you mean you took a student loan to be at the Sharks Academy? Rewind. You don't just roll over something like that. Are you telling me you left home, Ganubi River, right? You left the metropolis of Ganubi and that area. You went over to Durban and you took a student loan in order to be at the Sharks Academy. Did I hear you correctly?
Yeah, that's factual information right there.
That is unbelievable. Talk me through that. What are you talking about, bro? So you backed yourself so much that you said, I will risk it all to realize my dream.
No, I'll be honest. My dream was not to be a Springbok or to be a professional rugby player by any stretch of the imagination. I wasn't lying awake at night and dreaming of those things. I just loved playing rugby. Like, that was me. That was like where it ended for me. Like, there was no aspiration to play at a higher level. You know, I could come play club rugby and I could join the Sharks Academy, and it was something amazing. And only really one of my coaches when I played for College Rovers and called Rich Kelly, like, when I was under 20, and he used to look at the stadium and say, that's what you must aspire to, is to play up there. And I wasn't contracted out of school. I mean, I played Cravenby for Border, but I wasn't a big shot. I had no contract, and my parents couldn't afford to send me to the academy. I mean, it was quite expensive. So I took out a student loan from ABSA, I think it was, and whatever it was, and kind of proved my mettle in my first year. And I think I played sevens at the end of that year, and we had a really good seven side. And we, I think I got a little small scholarship to the academy the next year, and then by the end of that year, I trained with the Sharks, and then by the time I was 21, I was a full professional. So it kind of went quickly like that.
Do people know this? Like, I feel like you're breaking news here, by the way. Like, I'm pretty dialed in. I did not know this.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't. I think it's like anything. You know, people see they see the success at the end, but they don't really know the path that was traveled. You know, and unfortunately, I think in the beginning, and I had to correct them, the Sharks Academy, you know, used me quite a bit in terms of promotional stuff, but never really told the whole truth. You know, like, Keegan came up here, and it was assumed that I got a scholarship or I got a contract when I was a junior, but no, that was not the case. You know, I was just your average young, ambitious rugby player who wanted to leave his town and make something of himself. And, you know, sometimes I feel like rugby chose me versus me choosing rugby.
This is an unbelievable story. I feel like Larry King. We're breaking news right now. This is an incredible story, by the way. And trust me, I thought I knew them all. This is, dude, my respect for you was at an all-time high already, because I've heard from guys that have played with you what type of your character is. But after tonight, you're going to have to come back. Otherwise, we're going to turn it to Joe Rogan here. And honestly, listen, I'll give you a call. If not tonight, then tomorrow. And we're going to have to do this again, because, brother, you're phenomenal. Hey, you are phenomenal, bro.
I think we listen. Wherever we're going in our lives, we all have a story to tell, and some will know the story more than others, and that's okay. And some won't know. They'll think that, you know, what you have is by luck or by chance. But I think wherever we are in our lives, we all and everyone has a story to tell, and sometimes you just got to ask the right questions to hear the story.
Jeez, like, you went old Deepak Chopra on us as well, not just the meathead.
Yeah, got everything. What else do you need? I mean, except singing. Like, I'm not a good singer, but I mean, other than that, I can talk, but singing not so good.
You know what? Now I'm actually, like, I was thinking, should we have him back? It's like, I've always felt as though I'm the smartest Eastern Cape guy on the show, but now you've come on. And also now my insecurities are coming to the light. It's like, oh no, wait, what if he outshines me and he becomes the Eastern Cape guy? So maybe we won't bring you back. This has been an unbelievable convo, bro.
I appreciate it. Yeah, listen, I like sharing my story. I like talking like this casually, because I think, like I said to you earlier, I think you get a genuineness about it, and it's not just like made up and preempted, and it's genuine. You know, like I think, you know, young kids out there and young aspiring business folk, entrepreneurs, singers, songwriters, musicians, artists, you just gotta have that love and passion for what you do, you know, and you never know what can happen. Like I said to you, I really feel like rugby chose me, and I was given an amazing platform to get to where I am, and hopefully those young guys that you've spoken to, or older guys that I somehow impacted their lives. But I think, yeah, it's always great to share your story with those that need to hear it, you know, because I certainly was the young kid from the Eastern Cape who should never have, but did.
Keegan Daniel, we just broke. I'm basically I'm the Black Larry King. That's what people are already saying. I'm pretty sure those tweets are there. I haven't checked. Breaking huge news. Keegs, before we let you go, we got some social media questions. So our producer extraordinaire, Dave, is going to throw down some stuff. Let's see what we got for Deepak Chopra / loose forward dynamo, Keegan Daniel. Keegs, do you agree the Crusaders are the best team in world rugby at the moment?
No, the
That's what I always say.
Champions, are you joking? Yeah, this conversation.
All right, so the Springboks are the best team in world rugby. All right, well, Super Mario 2011. There you have it. And he's not being facetious at all. What else we got for?
No, I agree.
Senzo says,
yeah, I think the Crusaders are the most consistent. I mean, look at their Super Rugby record and what they've done. You can't argue. It's impossible.
Yeah, they're like the New England Patriots, right? Nothing should dominate anything. Business, sport, it doesn't happen. You don't dominate for 20 years. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And they've been Crusaders for me. Honestly, I think they're the best run rugby team in the world. I think they're better than the All Blacks as a system, by the way. I genuinely believe that. And we can debate that another time. Let's ask. Senzo says, here's a question. What has gone wrong with Australian rugby? They look in dire straits. Great band, but great question as well.
Well played. Look, Australia's position is quite tough because they don't have the caliber of rugby player or the pool to pick from. It's really tough for them. I think rugby is the 5th ranked popular sport in schoolboys there. You know, they've got league and rules, and they've got cricket, and I don't know what else is ahead of it, but they really are struggling from a talent pool point of view. And for them to get those guys coming through, and I think historically for the last couple of years, Australian rugby's had especially at a national level, have had a big discipline issue, and because they've got such a small pool of players, they've got to keep picking the guys that keep wandering off to the side of the bandwagon, and that doesn't create a good culture going forward. So I think that's the issue that they face currently.
Yeah, great answer. Great answer. And we got one more for you, and then we're going to let you go. Keegan Daniel, this has been real. The real Pinocchio says, it's been discussed several times on the show that we should focus on making franchise rugby top-tier rugby and putting the national team on the back burner. What are your thoughts, Keegan? So just to simplify that question, my argument is in all sport, right? Any sport where the international team is the most important, it tells you how amateur it is. So if you look across the board, NFL, football, the international game is the least important. In rugby and cricket, they're still the most important, which tells me it's the most amateur. So I say focus on making local leagues the most important, and then kind of make the end of year tour and a World Cup every now and then. Stop worrying about international teams. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
So I mean, interestingly, NFL, I mean, who else do they play against? So I mean, it's easy to say that because they just have a league. There's no international competition when it comes to NFL.
Sure.
Football's interesting. I mean, in Europe, and especially, I mean, there's so many foreigners that play in all the different leagues. It's not like if you go to the UK, you look at all the Premiership sides. I mean, the amount of foreigners in all those teams. So the international team's always on the back burner anyway because of that. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that rugby. I think you should focus on your international side. I mean, there has to be a focus on that. But at the end of the day, if your club teams or your comp sides don't perform well, there's no way your national side is going to do well. That's just how it is. Look in 2007 when we won the World Cup, Bulls and Sharks played in the final, and we had an unbelievable team. And the guys that came through last year. Sorry, I keep getting my years mixed up. For the World Cup from overseas, they were playing successful teams over there. COVID. I think there should be focus on the national side, but I think if you really want to get your sport right, without a shadow of a doubt, you have to get it right at grassroots. I mean, that's ultimately, but how do you do that? How do you fix a broken system? How do you get coaches to coach players and not coach matches? And how do you get coaches to worry about people and not results? And how do you get parents to remember that their kids are just kids, and they're not these robots just to go and win games? So I think it's such a difficult, it's like a rust in your car, where do you start patching it up to try and fix it? It's hard. It can be done. And I think New Zealand have a great model, and not that we need to copy, but I think you surely want to learn. So I didn't really answer your question there. I was going on a bit of a tangent because
Hey, Deepak Chopra, you were going down Deepak Chopra again. It's going to happen. Listen, he was a dynamic loose forward, but do you need to go to Thailand on a yoga trip? Keegan Daniel has got you covered across the spectrum.
Cheers. Thank you.
Dude, you are a legend. Dude, we're going to have you back. If I'll give you a shout tomorrow because I think we've got plenty to talk about, and I can't wait to have you back on the show.
Yeah, we just scratched the surface. We just scratched the surface.
This has been unbelievable. Honestly, we have just scratched the surface. It's been unbelievable. I'll give you a shout definitely this week. Ladies and gentlemen, you can expect to see this face again. Keegan Daniel, ladies and gentlemen. Keegan, bro, hey, listen, representing Eastern Cape, shout out. Dela Matong. No, you're a guy. You're the real thing. Ladies and gentlemen, that was unbelievable. Honestly, we could have gone full on Joe Rogan. We'd probably have to serialize that interview because there was so much powerful stuff there. But we got to cut it off, right? At a point is we have to respect his time. He's as everybody can see, high character guy. He'd probably stay another 2 hours, but we have to respect the man's time. It was a pleasure. Cannot wait to have him on again. Tomorrow, a man who does not fit through regular doors joins us. A mountain of a man, a great rugby player, went overseas to France, married a French woman, stayed there, sense of humor like nothing else. Flip van der Merwe, Bulls legend, Bok player, cannot wait to have him on. Join us for that. Flip van der Merwe, literally the size of a house, and a gentle giant. A great, great guy, fabulous sense of humor. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a different ball game.